What's up, everybody? Jim and Chris here with the latest edition of the Keeping It Real podcast here on the old IGN movies.
Ye old IGN.
Ye old IGN. I thought we were going to get through the week without too many shoes dropping, but no. Today, just a 1, 2, 3.
There's a lot of crazy news.
A lot of crazy stuff. Shall we just dive right in?
Let's dive in.
Now, we're going to start with some MCU stuff.
Yeah.
We finally know who's on whose side, or at least it's been confirmed after some rumors, on who's on whose side in Captain America Civil War, and they are, thanks to some concept art and Jeremy Renner tweeting.
Thanks for treating that.
So, Cap's team includes Falcon, Sharon Carter, a.k.a. Agent 13, Hawkeye, Winter Soldier, and Ant-Man. Iron Man side.
We knew Ant-Man was going to be on their squad.
Yeah, from the D23 footage.
From that.
We also knew Falcon was going to be on there, too.
Yeah.
But Iron Man side,
That's like the all-Cap team, though, really. Like Winter Soldier, Falcon, and Ant-Man is like a fanboy. So.
Yeah. And then Iron Man side, Black Widow, War Machine, no surprise there, Black Panther, and Vision. Now, Black Panther was, War Machine and Vision don't surprise me.
Yeah, at all.
Widow does a little bit.
She
actually started with Iron Man, but went to Cap, in the movies. So.
Yeah. Well, I can see her being more pragmatic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. There's idealism versus pragmatism if you're kind of going to boil it down.
Yeah, and also, I mean, she, now that we know she's in love with the Hulk and all that, she's seen what kind of havoc they can wreak if unchecked. But were you surprised that Black Panther is on Iron Man's side?
I actually feel like Black Panther, he and Tony have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Like they both wield a lot of power in the world. They're both
tech wizards,
super tech, savvy, both rich.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I feel like they if they're sitting around having drinks, they know what to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of loyalties on both sides too. You have obviously Winter Soldier, Cap, Falcon. Those loyalties are easy to see. And then on Tony's side, you have Vision, which came from Jarvis, obviously, and then you've got War Machine, which was always going to be on his side. It'd be totally shocking if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Widow was the surprise over there, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't surprising because we've heard
Scarlet
about
Witch
it before.
or Spider-Man, who Marvel still won't say he's in the movie, but everyone knows he's in the movie. We don't know which team, officially we don't know which team they might be on. There are rumors, but I did find it striking that Scarlet Witch, who we know is in the movie, she was in the announcement, she's done press, why she wasn't on any of that concept art.
The other thing I will mention, I don't know why she wasn't. I mean,
Spidey wasn't on there.
Could be that she's sitting on the sidelines in this, debate.
Yeah.
Like it's not like she's fighting on anybody's side. And I think for this one,
it's her turn to watch Avengers headquarters while they're out fighting.
Yeah, right. Well, at the end of it, they're all going to be on the same side. I think they have to be.
Well, we do know Baron Zemo is in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think, from what they've been saying, it's not going to be. And we have interviews with Mackie and Chris Evans up on the site from D23, and it's not going to be quite like in the comics where Iron Man's like an out-and-out bad guy. This is a family squabble. Right. So I wonder, though, is that devaluing the idea of a civil war? Like, don't you kind of want to see them really, go at it?
I think they're going to take it to the brink of, hurt feelings.
Hurt feelings.
No, I mean, I think they are going to up the stakes.
They're going to unfriend each other.
Yeah, they're going to. They're so going to not be
Christmas
friends
card
anymore.
lists.
Done.
It's going to be awkward running into them in the break room.
All debts.
Yeah.
Like if you got that guy at Arby's last week, you were totally not getting that Jamocha shake for him.
That's right.
So,
Jamocha. Shout out for Jamocha. I haven't heard Jamocha in ages, man.
Jamocha shakes rule. Are you talking about?
Yeah, I used to love him way back in the day. But
I am getting so excited for this movie.
Yeah.
And, seeing the battle lines drawn is just another piece of that puzzle. And, really, there are two, really, really epic movies coming down the pike close together.
Yeah.
And this is one, and then obviously Star Wars is the Force Awakens is the other. But man, when we always talk about when I was a kid, I can't imagine this world, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it's really coming to the point where I'm like, oh, how can they up the stakes? How can they up the stakes? And every year it seems like there's something bigger.
Yeah. Every time we keep having to wipe out our own line in the sand and being like, well, they did it again.
Okay, when the Beta Ray Bill standalone movie comes out, I guess that's the new line.
I almost got a Beta Ray Bill figure the other day.
Oh,
There was a convention here in LA, and I was like, no, but I got Red Skull and Doctor Strange
Done.
for my desk.
Awesome.
Of course, because I'm a grown man.
I saw some guy wearing a Red Skull T-shirt the other day, and it was really awesome. But then I was like, but he's a Nazi.
Exactly. Don't you want to just pump the brakes there and think about your choices before you do that?
But it was a really badass T-shirt, so I could see why he made the call.
Yeah. Was there anything else though about that Civil War lineup that jumped out at you?
One thing I would say is, number one, it's just concept art, so we don't know what it means. And I think in order for there to be conflict and tension and all those things, people are going to change sides.
Yeah.
And I think Spider-Man, there's been all kinds of rumors about what his part in the movie is going to be. I think he's going to be the pawn in this whole game, or he's going to be somebody who is,
Well, he's also too he's the innocent in a way.
Yeah.
All of them, even Black Panther, even though he's a new character, he's a guy who's he's probably get some notches on his belt by this point if you're already Black Panther.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. What also I find striking is Spider-Man is the only one with superpowers. I mean, Vision is technically well, no, I take that back. What's interesting? The two people with superpowers, Scarlet Witch and Spider-Man, are both not on that concept art.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I feel like the Spider-Man thing they're holding on to as long as possible.
Yeah.
And they don't. I think that's going to be the secret that they're trying to keep the most, is what his role in this whole thing is.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see it play out in the trailers somewhat when we finally get a real look at it. But yeah, there's got to be some more stuff dropping to the public pretty soon on that movie, I think.
Yeah, I would imagine there's probably going to be. Do you think we'll get the first Civil War trailer when the next Star Wars trailer drops? Or do you think they'll just put it with Star Wars?
I think a fair bet is that Force Awakens will have the Civil War trailer in front of it. And then what's going to be crazy about that is people will pass out and maybe die in the theater before they ever even get to see Star Wars. They'll just have heart attacks and then.
And that's the end of that.
And that's that.
Let's one last bit of Marvel news here, and this just dropped a little while ago. Mads Mikkelsen reportedly up for the villain role, an unspecified villain, mind you, in Doctor Strange. Baron Mordo is already going to be played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. So I'm just curious what villain that is. I mean, Dormammu is like the big Doctor Strange, big bad, but could he be like Despair or Mephisto or somebody like that?
God,
He's
Mephisto
got that kind of demonic face,
Mephisto would be kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's funny. He is, Hannibal gets canceled.
Yeah.
But now he's knee deep in franchises.
Well, he's got a
stuff.
good guy role. He revealed. We learned at D23 that he's going to be in Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
A Star Wars story.
And he revealed in a Danish newspaper. I just pictured it being like a breakfast.
That's just an amazing scoop for a Danish newspaper. I'll just give this to you.
Bjorn, look what I got.
It's cool. We've been bros for a while.
He's going to be a good guy in Rogue One, which is kind of cool because there had been speculation that he was going to be a villain, maybe an Imperial commander. So I like that he's a good guy in that.
Yeah, me too. We haven't seen who the bad guys are in that yet.
No, we haven't, but I would imagine, we know we don't know which particular galactic.
Ones,
there have been rumors that they were going to do a digital recreation of Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, which makes no sense to me. Why would you waste it? Just recast it. You're already going to have a young Han Solo.
Yeah.
Just recast it.
I mean, I like him in that role, and it's awesome. And Tarkin was he was that creepy kind of skeezy old guy in Star Wars who you're like, man, I don't like this guy's vibe. Even as a kid, I was like, I don't.
Yeah, he had that kind of.
I don't like the Tarkin.
The diddler. Kind of.
The diddler.
Yeah, the Death Star diddler.
Now Tarkin will forever be known in my mind as the Death Star diddler.
Do you want to know why they called me Grand Moff? I don't even know what that means.
Moving on.
Moving on. So we do have actually a bunch of Star Wars stuff that dropped. a brand new footage via the official Star Wars Instagram showed Finn, John Boyega's character, rocking the lightsaber. Now, we already saw him with the lightsaber in the D23 poster, but in action with Kylo Ren in the woods.
So you're kind of like, oh, this is cool footage. Oh, they're showing new stuff. Days like, oh yeah. Oh, you're seeing the lightsaber come on again. Then you're like, what?
Yeah.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it.
Dude, I mean, everybody
they're doing
had that
everything
same thing.
right.
They're like, yes,
They're
this
doing.
is fantastic.
They're doing everything right. Like
Grown men wept. You know?
I just, the marketing for this movie has been so outstanding, and it's been in like dribs and drabs. We haven't gotten like this huge blast of information, and I think people are into it, man. Like I feel like people are
just
not
the right level of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like people are not like hating on the stuff they're seeing. You know, some, but not as many.
Here's my I not to be.
Why don't you pour ice water on it?
Yeah,
now?
here's the wet blanket, folks. My fear is that it's got nowhere to go but down now.
Yeah.
I mean, this happened with, Avengers 2 with Dark Knight Rises and all that stuff. Of like, it gets to this fever pitch level.
Yep.
And then it's got Phantom Menace, and it's got nowhere to go but down. And here's one thing that is kind of striking is outside of Supreme Leader Snoke, Andy Serkis's character, we've not heard any of these new characters even speak. We've not actually seen them act with each other. We've just seen them running and looking. We have no idea what the performances are like, what the dialogue is like.
It's true. And
we don't know if any of these things are actually going to work, if they'll have chemistry. We don't.
We said last week too, I think, or not last week, last time we did the podcast, we were talking about how maybe it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, definitely we're at that level of anticipation that everybody is like, this movie, I read a report this week that this movie is slated to make like $650 million on opening weekend. That's just
I don't know if
that's just crazy.
I mean,
if that
understand
is
like
true.
worldwide,
Yeah,
but,
worldwide, not here.
But I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, IMAX is already exclusively all their North American IMAX theaters and several European ones are just going to be showing Star Wars: The Force Awakens for 4 weeks straight, which muscles out any competition. Obviously, there were some movies kind of on the fringes of that time span, like The Revenant and In the Heart of the Sea, that were trying to get in there for a little IMAX play.
Force Awakens.
Yeah. So I mean,
but I have faith in it. Like, I feel like they've been doing the right things, and just the approach to the way that they're dealing with fans and reveals and new stuff. I feel like it's very, very rare that you get a movie that's built up in the right way that is then utterly horrible. It's usually like, we know what we have, we're trying to be careful with it so we don't spoil it for everybody.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of worried about like, The Hobbit kind of went through this too,
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in it, and just the fact that like every new piece of information is interesting and new and fun to me. Like, I think that's
what a segue. New pieces of information, like J.J. Abrams saying that Kylo Ren is not a Sith.
Yeah, that's
and so
that's a thing.
What we're wondering here at IGN is, if Kylo Ren's not a Sith, and of course a lot of fans are like, he also said that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't Khan. Totally different thing. Yeah, but if Kylo Ren's not a Sith and Finn, maybe he's not a Jedi. I'm guessing he's not.
Yeah. Then
we're looking at two guys with lightsabers who probably have no idea what they're doing.
You know who else wasn't a Jedi when they started was Luke Skywalker. So and the interesting thing is, if that truly is like not a dream sequence or not something other than
that was another theory. Is this like a Luke in the cave thing of him seeing?
If that is an actual fight, it is going to be a down and dirty friggin'
two rookies
dust up with lightsabers.
Yeah,
that's
these
what
two
I think.
Guys who are just like, I know that Kylo Ren was part of the Knights of Ren and all that, so he's probably got the competitive edge there in terms of fencing.
Yeah.
I mean, Finn was a stormtrooper, which means we already know he can't shoot. So I mean, hopefully he's better with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And I have another thing that I wonder. Since he's using basically Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, but then went to his son Luke.
Yep.
Does this mean then that Finn is doomed to lose one of his hands?
His hand's gone, man. Kiss that thing goodbye. You're not
right
keeping
hand
it.
or left hand. What do you think? I'm thinking right. I'm thinking right
probably.
hand.
Yeah, I feel like
I mean, it just seems like it's like
would be
The
ridiculous.
Ring, where it just or when whatever horror movie, like it falls, you just pay it forward, and it's like you're gonna lose your hand, and that's it.
It's like a cursed lightsaber. It would be really interesting if that was a cursed lightsaber, because
could explain maybe that
at the end of things, you'd be like, wow, it was really cool when Luke first got that thing, and then they played it like this noble weapon the entire series, and now it's like
and then like but his life does kind of go to hell in a way, even though he's like the hero and all that. He finds out his own father is this monster who
he
cuts
loses
off his own hand.
surrogate parents, and then finds out his own father is this horrible
Think about
monster.
it. If there's like the dark side of the Force or whatever, is just like somehow latched itself like a poltergeist or like a curse onto
like a
this
symbiote suit.
exactly, and it gets passed on. It'd be interesting. It doesn't mean it. Just maybe it's just a bad luck charm, but But I mean, I guess Finn is sort of like he's going to be like and it shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody that he's wielding the lightsaber, because we've seen on his costume.
Oh, we saw him holding it on the poster.
Yeah, but even
D23.
before that, we've seen it kind of attached to his costume. Yeah. We saw it at WonderCon or Star Wars Celebration. They had his costume and everything. So
all this stuff is being really carefully orchestrated to elicit conversations just like this one.
Yes. So thank you, Disney.
And but yeah, I mean, I think they've done a really good job of placing things along the path for little breadcrumbs to follow. The thing one of my favorite lightsaber battle in all of the Star Wars movies, and this is probably everybody will disagree with me, but the one I felt the best about was the Return of the Jedi one between Luke and Darth, where
the most emotional,
where he's just wailing on him, at the end, and I feel like that this fight.
Do the kids still say wailing on?
I don't know.
Let us know in the comments.
Do the Hartford Whalers still exist? I want that level of intensity of the fight. Obviously, it's going to be less it probably will be less choreographed than that. If they truly are novices with no training. I have a feeling Kylo Ren has used his lightsaber to
he's going to play dirty, too.
To cut some stuff off.
Yeah. He's, another thing that JJ said this week, and I think it was with Empire Magazine he was talking to, but and this kind of fed into some of the stuff that we had speculated on and talked about before, but like that the First Order are basically like Nazi war criminals who took off to Argentina.
And then set up shop there.
And so, to me, it's like I find that a very fascinating way to handle that. Like, they would be essentially, I mean, we knew visually the Empire was always modeled after Nazi Germany and everything, but to follow that idea in terms of how it's played out over the decades since, and that they're going to have a sort of a philosophy in the idea of finishing Darth Vader's work or finishing the Empire's work.
He's seen as a martyr figure,
Yeah, and it's sort of it makes you wonder, like, well, what was sort of the philosophy of the Empire? Because they weren't Sith lords. I mean, Darth was and Palpatine, but like the Empire itself was. I mean, they scoffed at Vader in the first Star Wars movie. They're like, your sorceress ways. We all remember that.
Well, I actually kind of feel like that moment, and then going forward was when the Sith kind of took over the Empire.
Yeah.
The Empire before that was just like a really well-organized military kind of organization. And I feel like, sure. I mean, they were building the Death Star, which is,
and they had a clone army.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have these sort of military installations, and they were like imperialistic. In addition to being the Empire, like they have all these sort of designs on the universe, but I didn't feel like they were truly like dark side oriented until Darth Vader and Emperor. I mean, I guess they had been pulling the strings all along.
Really. But it makes you wonder though, like what.
Pulling the strings.
I do wonder though, like if we're talking about galactic remnants and essentially war criminals. What was the philosophy of somebody who didn't believe in the Force one way or another, but you were like, I'm pro, like who did you want out? I mean, it's one thing to just want to acquire planets and resources or whatever, but to finish their work, that to me is, it speaks to the Nazis having this mindset, you know?
Well, I
so
think
it'd
it
be
is-
interesting to see them kind of define that in this movie.
Sounds like Empire's goal is universe domination, because even when they go into like Cloud City and places like that, you know, Cloud City is like one of those kind of like, you know, far outside worlds, and they were kind of like, yeah, you know,
It's like taking over Albuquerque.
we've done a pretty good job keeping the Empire at bay out here, and then you guys show up,
Yeah,
you know?
way to go.
And so, like,
Thanks,
I
buddy.
kind of feel like that Outer Rim territories or whatever are the ones who, like, are, you know, the Empire's finally reaching those areas.
Another bit of news this week. You know what's one of the most popular baby names in America right now?
Poodoo.
No. Anakin.
Wow.
Speaking of the dark side, why would you name your child after somebody who was a murderer, who's basically the Hitler of a fictional universe?
I don't know. I didn't like the name. When I was a kid and I heard Anakin the first time, I was like, I don't like that name. I like the name Han Solo and all that stuff. I was like, I don't like Anakin. I really, really hate it when they call him Annie in the prequels.
God.
Annie in the prequels just bothers me for some reason.
Annie in the prequels would be a great like fan band though.
Annie in the prequels. Coming soon to a con near you.
Let's see. I think we've about covered all the major Star Wars. Any final thoughts, though, on all the stuff that we've learned this week on that footage?
I mean, the footage gave me like super excitement feelings.
I know.
I like just that shot of him holding the saber. It wasn't even that dynamic a shot. He was just holding the saber.
It just seemed a new character.
Yeah. In a
the
counterpoint to Kylo Ren, too. That was the other thing. It's like if that hadn't been preceded by Kylo Ren, it would have lost its impact, I think.
Well, yeah, you finally, like, here's your new bad guy, here's your new good guy. Yeah. Good luck. You know?
Yeah, and it also points to me like Finn is going to be the central Jedi of this trilogy.
And that they're all roughly the same age, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the original Star Wars trilogies, the ages are all over the place.
Right.
And Han Solo was in his late 30s, pushing 40 by the time you get to the later films, or even in his 40s by then. And then Luke Skywalker was 20s the entire time.
Yeah.
And Leia teens and 20s or whatever. And well, I guess they'd have to be the same age. Then, you know, like Lando just in his 30s. And then, but you have Vader and all these other guys who would have been older.
Right.
So yeah, whereas this one, it's like,
that's weird when you think of it. Like Vader's like probably 55 or something like that.
Yeah. And now
in
he's
Earth years, though,
yeah.
we don't know. We don't know. We don't know about those double suns.
And now, though, we're going to have like people who are in their 20s and then in 30s, and then just everyone else is in their 70s, you know, and so it's 60s and 70s.
Oh, it's true. But I really do think that there's definitely going to be throughout the course of this trilogy, there's going to have to be some kind of changing of the guard, and we still don't know how involved those characters are going to be.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I was watching Ant-Man, I was like really, really surprised how much Michael Douglas was in that movie. Like really surprised.
Far more than
I will be as surprised if the old school like Han and Luke and Leia are as involved as.
Especially too with his injury and missing some time. I wonder if they had to reconfigure some things.
We shall see.
We shall see. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts and all the stuff you learned about Star Wars this week. The Instagram video, Kylo Ren not being Sith, all that jazz, Finn with his lightsaber. Let us know in the comments below. I have to say, I've been transfixed by your beard throughout this podcast.
Oh yeah,
it's gone full Jedi, but you're almost like you're pretty much a Rankin Bass character now. It's like I'm cupping, you know.
You're cupping.
But you know, it's just like look at it. You're a Rankin Bass doll now.
My beard is at Yukon Cornelius proportions.
That's right. You truly are.
Yeah.
Now let's move on, and I want to get to a reader email. This one from, I'm going to say Basil Frank.
I like Basil Exposition.
Or it could be Basil, but I'm going to say, I'm thinking, because he's writing from South Africa, I'm going to say it's probably Basil.
Basil.
So Basil writes in about video game movies, blessing or curse is his subject line. And he was talking about sort of the, here, I'll just say
read
what
it.
he's reading.
Read it to us.
Movies and video games, do they mix, and why have they failed in the past? The recent Hitman movie failed. It is currently, I think, at just under $22 million worldwide.
That's not great for that.
That's not. I mean, I believe it was budgeted at 35, and that's not even marketing costs. So, so the recent.
Well, you know, if it's 22 and it's 35, they probably do have more territory. So it's probably going to make its money back, but it's not like blowing the lid off of anything.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't scream appetite for another one.
Right.
But he says, Basil says, the recent Hitman movie failed. However, the games are such a success. Why do you think directors fail to get it right, even though all they have to do is literally copy everything from the game? Now, that's the first part of his question, so let's just address that. I don't blame the director, actually, on this one.
Yeah.
I
also
just,
don't
you know,
think that you just have to copy
No.
everything from the game. I think they're just different mediums, and so it makes it difficult. You know, like any director who's ever tackled a video game movie has always said that's the toughest thing to get right.
Well,
know,
you're going
that
from
balance.
A subjective experience to a relatively objective one.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, video games are about you're having fun, you're doing it, you're controlling everything, and you're ripping all that away and putting it into a completely different medium. So unless it's got a really compelling story or really compelling character, I mean,
Miyamoto had comments on that this week too, basically saying, we'll get to that, but he
Yeah.
basically said the same thing. He's like, that's the reason that Nintendo has stayed away from movies for so long, is that it's just not the same experience. And so
Yeah.
like to try to replicate that, you just have to do it differently, I think.
Yeah.
And it's really, really tough to get it right, as evidenced by every video game movie ever, pretty
well,
much.
this speaks to his second, Basil's second point. Do you feel there's still hope for video game movies?
Yes.
You've seen some Warcraft footage, and I hope that it looks, that it shows it can be done. Look at Michael Fassbender and the released Assassin's Creed image. He's playing, by the way, he's playing a brand new character.
Right.
None of the ones from the games. He's playing a character named Callum Lynch.
Right.
I
don't
it's
think
going
that's
to be
a
a
bad
modern
idea.
day thing.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, Assassin's Creed games are always split into modern, you know, technology that takes you back to history. So we'll see where it goes.
Basil points out that he has a missing ring finger, which points to the first game, but he has
Right.
two blades, which points to the second game. Can they just not stick to the source material? Why? And then his final question is, which video game movies would you love to see? Which video games would you love to see as movies? Personally, I want a Metal Gear movie, a solid movie done right.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I agree. I think the thing is like, it's just like comic book movies. And when somebody gets it right, then everybody's going to go, oh, and then they're going to do things that way. But I think they're trying to do what comic book movies do, in that they say, okay, I'm going to pull this piece from Ultimate's universe, I'm going to pull this piece from this storyline,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull this from a previous movie where it worked, and then try to make that conglomeration happen. Movies are such a collaborative effort, and it's so hard to get them right. That's why it's
Yeah.
amazing that certain companies
Well,
have done it so well.
Here's the thing, and I know we toot his horn a lot, but like, until you have a Kevin Feige on the video game movie scene, you know, video game movies right now are where comic book movies, and they've been this way for at least 15 years, but like they're basically still stuck where comic book movies were in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
They have yet to hit their X-Men and their Spider-Man. And then it opens the floodgates to the Nolan Batmans and all that. They haven't even had their Burton's Batman or Richard Donner Superman yet.
Yeah, and here's what I think.
And we got to talk about Warcraft too, since he specifically mentioned.
Now I want to talk about what could be the world's biggest monopoly, and that would be if Disney got rights to make Nintendo movies. If they got rights to make Nintendo movies, then forget about it. You might as well just subscribe to only Disney Entertainment the rest of it.
I think if that happened, I think Sony would have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Because I think they were trying to do something with the Super Mario cartoon there
I'm not
for a
saying
while
it's
with
even
Avi.
likely. Yeah.
But you know, you want to talk about some of the comments that were made this
Yeah,
week?
sure.
Because
Yeah.
it basically,
I mean, basically they're
Nintendo's
saying,
opening the door again.
yeah, they're saying like, hey, we're open to this. And I think as a company, they're changing their philosophy a little bit. You know, like for years and years and years, it was just really siloed and really sort of Nintendo makes things the way that they make them, and they don't necessarily have to play with others and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of been the reputation. And I think the times that they ventured out with Super Mario Brothers were not really a success, and so that kind of like made them retreat back and say, yeah, we don't want to do this. But, you know, imagine a Disney movie made by like by Pixar, or even by the Disney.
Oh, you mean a Nintendo movie?
Yeah, like, well, I was gonna say like a Disney movie that is the Link movie or the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like those movies in the right hands, in like Disney Animation or in Pixar's hands, would be great, I think.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but I think anybody could do them. Like I think Sony's a good candidate too. You know, like I don't want to throw Lord and Miller out there because they get used for everything. But yeah, if you had a team like Lord and Miller tackle the Super Mario Brothers movie, I guarantee that movie's going to be successful and good. So I feel like one of the problems that video game movies have is that they're operating in the wrong genres for the moment. You know, and animation could work really well, and I think horror could work even though it hasn't. I feel like Silent Hill was an example of it. Just
well, they got the director of Gil Keenan of Poltergeist is going to do the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and then James Wan reportedly going to be a producer on the Mortal Kombat reboot, and he obviously has a horror and action background.
I just feel like those kinds of things. I mean, horror has had a really bad reputation. You know, horror video game movies, and then the Resident Evil movies, which I think he's also.
Oh yes. P.S. I'm writing from Cape Town, South Africa, where they are shooting the final Resident Evil movie. Let's not even get into how far off the source material that one went.
Yeah, I mean, I think that series of movies definitely like alienated the base of people who play that game, but clearly. On what, the sixth installment?
They're the most successful video game movies that have existed.
If Tomb Raider had continued, I think we'd be talking about that. But because the first two of those are like definitely
and they're still
really
working on
big
that reboot based on the latest game. So.
But think about Pokemon in the hands of somebody like Disney or somebody fun like Sony. Think about all these properties that they have. They have more mature properties too. There could be a really cool Metroid live action movie. All these things are potentials, and it is very, very exciting that Nintendo is starting to think about these things. And I think we saw from the Sony
what do you think
hack
changed
that they
their
were.
mind though?
I think they just have to change. I think they have to adapt, and they realize that they're having to adapt into the new world. I mean, they had never really, or they had very, very rarely ever collaborated outside of their platform on things, and now they're like, oh, we're gonna make PC games, and we're gonna make Android games and stuff like that. So we're gonna start seeing, I think, Nintendo try some stuff, and I think that's really exciting.
Now to Basil's final point though about the Warcraft footage.
Yeah, you saw some.
Yeah, I've actually, the last 3 Comic-Cons I've seen, I've been at each Warcraft panel. And I talked about this in one of the previous ones, but they showed us the most Warcraft footage yet at the last one. And both myself and some of my colleagues that walked out were less enthusiastic this Comic-Con than we were
in the
previous 2, where they showed a little bit. And in fact, I thought the effects looked better 2 years ago. I thought it looked more photorealistic then, but
I think
it just looks really overstuffed. It looks like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like I believe in prior podcast I said that the footage looked like when you see like the Hobbit trilogy or Lord of the Rings trilogy Blu-ray trailer, and it shows you from all 3 movies, so like 9 hours of stuff.
Yeah.
But what if that was all one movie? You'd be like, whoa, wait, how much is going on? They put up 10 character posters. 10. That's a lot for any movie.
I think the biggest challenge for this movie is the fact that they're trying to tell the story from both sides, because I'm going to say something.
And in one story.
I will say something kind of controversial here. I think the reason the Marvel movies work, actually, is that they don't have much on the other side. They don't usually have a villain that is really that amazing.
Memorable, yeah. Loki is about it.
But everybody loves those movies because they get the concept of what's going on with the team, and they have fun with that team, and then it's like, oh, this villain is an obstacle to overcome. I mean, DC is the opposite. They always have these great villains, and then the hero doesn't do necessarily. I don't want to make.
Well, no, I mean it's just that it's the heroes are
overshadowed.
They're overshadowed, and sometimes just less dramatically compelling than the villains have some very interesting or tragic backstories or whatever. You get a better sense of what makes them tick than you do like, I have come to your world and I will do whatever, and help.
But if you mash those two things together and you say, we're going to develop the heroes really deeply and we're going to develop the villains really deeply, what you're going to get is a really long movie where maybe you don't feel super strongly about one side or the other. Like it's like watching your friends in a fist fight. You're like, I kind of want to break this up.
But you're curious who's going to kick whose ass?
Yeah, kind of. But I also just kind
of... That's your Captain America Civil War, right?
But I actually just really kind of want to break them up. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah,
I know too much about both of you guys. I don't want either of you hurt, I've never watched my friends fight like that. I guess that's a frame of reference I don't have. Do you? Have you ever watched your friends like beat on each other?
Friends, no. Some relatives, maybe. But
Back
moving
to Black
on.
Mask.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, everything comes back to that movie. Once that movie finally comes out, I don't know what I'm going to be like.
Yeah, we're joking about having the 6-hour spoiler cast when it's
So on the video game movie tip, a game that you really want to see get turned into a movie.
Zelda. I think that's the safe answer. I'd love to see Metroid too.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Metroid though is that it borrows from a lot of cinema that was happening at the time it was made. So it is kind of a mashup. I wonder if it would feel like a mashup of all those things.
And I also too wonder like how much did pixels hurt the appetite for, classic games? Are we looking at just now it's going to be anything that's just come out in the last 10 years?
I don't think so, because I think what you could do is...
Because that kills my dream for a Pitfall movie.
I mean, that's essentially Uncharted.
Yeah, I know.
but I mean...
I still think
that's so
Pitfall's going
horrible.
to happen before Uncharted happens.
I'm so sorry, Uncharted folks. That's very reductionist of me. But yeah, no, I'd love to see... basically, my answer is going to be a cop-out, which is like every potential Nintendo project is more interesting to me than the other ones, because I think there's a lot of iconic characters there, and I think you could do them in various ways that would be interesting.
All right, let's let us know in the comments your thoughts on all these upcoming video game movies, what you thought of Michael Fassbender's look in Assassin's Creed. Pretty cool, I thought. Yeah. And then your thoughts on why Hitman Agent 47 didn't work, and if you're still excited for a Warcraft movie. We have been talking about it for several years now.
Many years.
So let us know in the comments below. And if Nintendo does get into the movie business, live action or animated, and which ones you want to see. So,
Kid Icarus.
Okay, we're gonna run down some news items and rumors. Just doing a little rundown.
Just
all right.
throw them out there.
Léa Seydoux from Spectre and.
Blue is the warmest color.
No, I'm cueing you for the Spectre theme song.
I was like getting my Léa Seydoux knowledge all ready to go, and I missed out.
Mission
on
Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Everybody Spectre.
This brought to you by Rankin Bass's very own Chris Carle. And then she's reportedly up for the role of Belladonna in the Gambit movie, of course.
Right.
Assassin's Guild and love interest and all that. So I think that's classy casting. I like it. A couple of big movies have wrapped filming. Captain America: Civil War did. X-Men: Apocalypse has wrapped filming, and so did Suicide Squad.
I mean, those are three pretty.
And the Independence Day sequel wrapped too. So
wow.
Yeah. But now this other wave of stuff is gearing up now. Like Assassin's Creed starts filming Monday.
Yeah, I mean, Doctor Strange is
Doctor Strange is in November.
Months,
yeah. So yeah, you get this
exciting
one
times.
huge wave, and now it's on to the next crop. There had been Triple X 3.
Triple X.
Vin Diesel says it's happening. They start filming in December in the Philippines.
So how are they going to explain? I can't actually even remember what went on with Ice Cube.
Who cares though about
Who cares?
Triple X? I
You're
don't
right.
get this.
Yeah.
We have Fast and the Furious now.
Yeah.
Triple X was the franchise you were trying to start when you didn't think Fast and the Furious had enough gas in the tank, excuse the pun.
Yeah.
But now clearly, like, nobody really wants Triple X.
All I can ever see about Triple X is like something that belongs on a Slurpee cup. Like the Triple X logo, if it's not on a Slurpee cup, it just doesn't look right.
To me, it sounds like if that was a TV show, it would be canceled after 6 episodes.
Yeah.
You know? The 50 Shades of Grey sequels, 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed. Probably going to be directed by James Foley, director of several episodes of Hannibal, but Glenn Ross, which I love, and one of my, actually a great movie, At Close Range, Sean Penn, Christopher Walken, Chris Penn. Crispin Glover, is he? No, he wasn't in that one.
But and the other part of that news.
That's a sell cat on a pig, I'm telling you.
It's so weird. The other part of that news that's interesting is they're going to do it up Hobbit style and shoot both movies at the same time.
That's the report, and it kind of makes sense. You just burn it, burn through and just get this over with. You
I
know?
want to see what's going to happen between him, a very seasoned director, and then there were all these rumors of the
James,
writer coming
yeah.
in, E.L. James coming in, and giving the director.
But he's
fits.
worked on television now for a long time, so he's used to basically being kind of a hired gun.
Yeah.
But I do think he's
too many cooks.
But I think he's gonna his visual palette I like, because I think he'll be the closest thing to, like, if they could have gotten like Adrian Lyne to like make these movies.
That would have been awesome.
That's a dude who did 9.5 Weeks and Fatal Attraction.
He would have been the best possible. I mean, maybe I just reacted, even though I think I've said
Cronenberg
this
would have
before.
been kind of interesting.
Cronenberg would have been great.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen Dead Ringers, I know I mentioned it before. You should see what Dead Ringers and then see what he would do with the 50 Shades of Grey movie.
Yeah.
It would be quite nice.
It would be pretty twisted.
If you're into that sort of thing.
So another big rumor this week is that the Blade movie reboot would focus on a female Blade coming up in the comics, Blade's daughter.
And so we think Wesley Snipes would then
Play himself,
mentor
but he's
her.
the dad. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's cool.
But does the Blade movies do they need Wesley Snipes?
I mean, I don't mind them having
Which
him.
would retroactively then make the New Line movies MCU canon, because wouldn't they? And I don't know of the rights on this. Does the MCU, they just have the character back, but does this mean they have to strike a deal like they did with Paramount to then own the New Line Blade movies?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they would say like this is part of canon or not.
Like,
that would be
wink.
really weird. That'd be weird. But the interesting thing about the Blade movies is that they're like hermetically sealed in their own world. It's not like there's a lot of crossover characters. So it's like you get the Blade characters, but then there's nothing else that really intrudes on that. So they could do that. I mean, there's the Ryan Reynolds and what's his name? Hannibal.
The Frost.
Yeah.
Guy, yeah.
Anyway, so
he's Hannibal King.
Yes.
And then Stephen the Dwarf.
Stephen the Dwarf
was what's his name? Frost. Deacon Frost.
Mickey the Rock.
And then what's her face? Married to Justin Timberlake. Why did I forget?
Jessica Biel.
Yes, she was. Wasn't she Whistler's daughter in the last one?
Yeah, I mean the Blade Trinity.
Yes.
Essentially.
Oh God.
I'll do a little. Here's a little admission to you and the readers. I did not hate Blade Trinity.
Why? Why didn't you hate it?
I don't know.
Was it just Ryan Reynolds' charm?
I had fun with it. I thought it was okay.
God. Blade is the worst thing in that movie too. That and the lighting.
Maybe I need to see it again, but I can remember. I probably do need to say it again, but I can remember not hating it when I saw it. I was like, yeah, it's okay. I think what's most interesting about that movie, there are Patton Oswalt's comments about what it was like on set. So if you haven't read those, look it up, because he goes off. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it got really nasty, like physically violent nasty.
Yeah, and they're great stories, at least.
Great stories. So look those up. Now there is a rumor that Warner Brothers wanted George Miller to direct Man of Steel 2, and then a couple of days later, rumors that movie's just not going to happen. But they're still interested in having George Miller, who did Mad Max Fury Road for Warner Brothers, do something for them. Which upcoming DC movie would you like to see him do? I kind of wouldn't mind him doing either one of the, if there is a standalone Batman movie, because his practical effects stuff was so badass in Fury Road. But there's also part of me who's like, because he's dabbled in lighter stuff with Happy Feet, like, could he do Shazam?
Yeah. I personally didn't really love Happy Feet. Like, I just felt like it was like too fluffy, and too annoying, But I love Fury Road. I actually think he would have been a really good contender for a Suicide Squad. I think he would have been an awesome choice for that. But maybe if they make another Suicide Squad movie and Air doesn't want to do it, I think I'd love to see his take on that.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments who you think, which movie you would like to see George Miller do. Let's wrap it up now.
Joker standalone movie.
Joker's a Harley Quinn standalone movie, or a Harley Quinn team-up movie. Let's see. Opening this weekend are We Are Your Friends with Zac Efron.
Zac Efron.
And No Escape with Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, and Pierce Brosnan.
That used to be called The Coup, isn't that right?
Yeah, and it was they filmed in Thailand, but I think it's supposed to be set in Cambodia. I'm not sure actually if
That's
they
cool.
actually.
I did that purely
Where's
for you,
the
Jim.
bell?
I did that purely for you.
You tried to outpun the punster, man.
I shouldn't do that.
Well, what I'm saying is, We Are Your Friends and No Escape don't stand a damn chance against Straight Outta Compton, which will probably going to stay #1 again, third week in a row.
But that's going to be a weak box office. Let's be
It's going to
honest.
be, it's tracking, Compton's tracking in like the 14 million range, which, it's already made 135 million, so it's doing fine.
It's too fine.
Universal's
year, man.
My lord.
Oh my God. Universal's having a year for the ages, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
And they've done it largely without a lot of, not all
Even
franchises.
Ted 2 is like their biggest disappointment, which is amazing because we wouldn't have probably been thinking that this time last year. But yeah, I mean, they have had a remarkable year. I want to say, oh, geez.
Even little movies are big movies. Trainwreck was a big movie, and
50 Shades of
Compton,
Grey.
50 Shades of Grey was a big movie. I mean, obviously, Minions was a huge money maker for them.
Jurassic World.
Jurassic World.
Number
That's
one
still
movie
'1
of the year globally.
It won't be. Here's an interesting side question, because we know Force Awakens is going to end the year probably in '1.
Yeah.
It doesn't have as many days to do it, but the way that works is the cumulative of
So
that
it's all
movie.
retroactive.
So
That's why, like Avatar,
Right.
even though it opened at like Christmas time, it made all its money in the first quarter of
Right.
What is that, 2009 it would have been, right? Or when did that movie come out?
God, that's so long ago now.
Or was it 2009? I don't know, it was a long time ago.
Anyway, so what were we talking about right before that?
Box office, Star Wars.
Star Wars is
in
going to
the
be number
retro-
1.
Yeah.
Jurassic World will be number 2, but there's also Mockingjay Part 2, which is, a final part of that.
I don't know if Mockingjay, though, will be able to outgross what the Marvel movies have done. I mean, Ultron, it'll outgross Ant-Man, but it's, Age of Ultron is still pretty high up there.
True.
And the Mockingjay
forgot about
movies
that
have,
somehow.
they've always done well, but, I don't know if they're, even though it's the final one, I feel like, I'm curious to see how Mockingjay actually, the last one performs, because so many people were meh on the first part.
I think there are a lot of people out there that just want to see it, what happens in the end and finish it up, close it out. I think it'll still be very, very big, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Ultron and Jurassic World are definitely going to be.
Yeah, they'll be duking it up. Well, Ultron is already there. It's not going to surpass Jurassic World.
So it'll be
Jurassic World. Aren't they re-releasing that this weekend in like?
Oh yeah.
I want to say they are, like, just for
Just for giggles.
just for more money.
Let's
Hey,
let's pull it back out of that $4 kid.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's been a fascinating summer to see the movies that popped and the ones that didn't.
Yeah.
And Compton, Straight Outta Compton, showing that in a weird way it is existing IP, but
Yeah.
it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot, it's not a remake, it's not a superhero thing, it's not a genre movie. It's the right movie at the right moment.
Yeah.
And it speaks to serious things that people are want to talk about now and remain relevant. And I think I said this in one of our prior podcasts or conversations. Like, I can't think of any other biopic, with the exception of American Sniper, that has kind of captured the public consciousness and the zeitgeist of something that took place. In this case, many years before even the time period that American Sniper did, but like a biopic that's relevant.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Well, yeah,
much.
it has to be well timed. I mean, there was Frost Nixon, which I felt kind of culturally relevant at the time, but not in the way that Straight Outta Compton does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm wondering when we're now going to get more people jumping on that bandwagon. We'll see
they've been trying to do a Tupac movie for years.
Weren't there competing Tupac projects at all?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we will start to see.
The cop that was working on that case just died. The guy who had
really?
written the L.A. Labyrinth or whatever, that book.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So a lot of people feel like, is that
But we're gonna see
Well,
the
we never
chasers
know.
now, right? We're gonna see every movie that wants to be straight out of Compton come after it. And
Do you think we'll get a Ja Rule movie?
Lord hopes. I mean, if they can bring Steven Seagal back playing himself, then I'm all for the Ja Rule movie.
All right, guys. Well, we want to know in the comments what you guys think of this weekend's box office crop. What movies you're going to go see? What are you excited about? For all, and then
More like box office crock.
Ding,
Sorry.
ding. We need to bring back the bell.
We'll get the bell.
We got to get the bell back. All right. Well, follow us on Twitter at Chris Carle, at Jim Vejvoda. Check out some of the other shows here on IGN between Channel Surfing, Rebel Base.
Yep.
Mother of God, why do I always forget the Australian shows? The Lucy's.
Well, they're going on hiatus actually.
Oh,
so
they are?
Lucy's going on holiday, as they say. I think they say that there.
holiday.
So they're taking a little hiatus. But
Superhero show on the UK. Love
Yeah.
those guys. So yeah. So
Check it out.
check out all those other shows on IGN. For all things movies, though, keep it here on IGN.